The internet didn't just whisper last night, it exploded. Fans are shocked, timelines are on fire, and one leaked audio clip has everyone asking the same question: was this all part of a plan? According to buzzing fan theories and behind-the-scenes chatter, Jasmine Washington and young Jock may have been plotting something far more calculated than anyone expected, and Kirk Frost is right at the center of the fallout. It started quietly, too quietly. A mysterious audio recording began circulating in fan groups, allegedly capturing a tense phone conversation filled with coded language, hushed threats, and names that sent chills through the fandom. Within minutes, fans were replaying it, dissecting every word, every pause, every breath. Emotions ran high as listeners claimed they could hear strategy, betrayal, and revenge woven into the conversation. And then came the question that changed everything: why did Jasmine and Jock sound like they already knew this would leak? As the clip spread like wildfire, insiders claimed panic erupted behind the scenes. Calls were allegedly made, stories were suddenly changing, and Kirk? Fans swear he went silent, the kind of silence that only makes people talk louder. Social media detectives began connecting dots, resurfacing old arguments, unresolved feuds, and moments that once seemed harmless but now looked suspiciously staged. Was this a desperate attempt to destroy Kirk's reputation? A calculated move to flip the narrative? Or did the audio leak expose a plan that went horribly wrong? With friendships hanging by a thread and reputations on the line, one thing is clear: this drama is just getting started, and the family may never be the same again. The moment the audio hit the blogs, everything changed. Phones started buzzing, group chats went into overdrive, and fans who thought they'd seen every possible twist suddenly realized this situation was different. The recording didn't sound accidental. It sounded planned. Voices were low, careful, almost rehearsed, and that's what made people uneasy. In the audio, Jasmine's tone was calm but sharp, like someone who already knew the damage would land exactly where she wanted it to. Jock, on the other hand, sounded conflicted, pausing between sentences, as if he was weighing loyalty against survival. Fans replayed it again and again, convinced they were hearing more than just a conversation. They were hearing strategy. Behind the scenes, word started spreading that Kirk had been blindsided. Sources close to him claimed he found out the same way everyone else did, scrolling his phone late at night, half asleep, until a clip stopped him cold. His name dropped casually, accusations hinted at but never fully said, leaving just enough room for imagination to do the rest. Emotions ran high as Kirk allegedly called a few people he trusted, demanding to know who had been talking and why his private business was suddenly public. But every call led to more silence, more unanswered questions, and more suspicion. Jasmine, meanwhile, wasn't hiding. She went live briefly, eyes glossy but posture confident, telling fans she was finally done being quiet. She didn't deny the audio. She didn't fully explain it either. Instead, she smiled in a way that fans described as chilling and said, "Sometimes the truth needs a push." That one sentence lit a firestorm. Fans are shocked, not just by what she said, but by how ready she seemed for the chaos that followed. Comments flooded in, some praising her courage, others accusing her of clout chasing and revenge. Jock's reaction was messier. People close to him claimed he spent that night pacing, replaying the audio himself, realizing how bad it sounded now that it was out of his control. He allegedly argued with Jasmine over the phone, voices raised, blaming her for letting it leak too early. She fired back, reminding him that he agreed this was the only way to force Kirk's hand. The argument reportedly ended with silence, the kind that signals a crack forming in an alliance that was never built on trust to begin with. As fans dug deeper, old footage resurfaced. Moments from past reunions where Jasmine hinted she knew more than she was saying. Scenes where Jock laughed off Kirk's comments, now reinterpreted as guilt or fear. Suddenly, everything had a new meaning. The family was left divided, with some defending Kirk as a victim of a setup, while others argued that the audio was proof of long-suspected behavior finally coming to light. Even friends who had stayed neutral were dragged into the mess, their past likes and comments analyzed like evidence in a trial. One particularly explosive rumor claimed that the leak wasn't meant to be public yet. According to alleged insiders, Jasmine and Jock were planning to use the audio privately, threatening Kirk with exposure unless he agreed to certain demands. What those demands were became the next obsession. Money, apologies, control over the narrative. Every theory sounded plausible, and that uncertainty only fueled the drama. Emotions ran high as fans debated whether this was justice or manipulation. Kirk's camp eventually broke their silence, but not in the way anyone expected. Instead of a statement, a cryptic post appeared on his page late at night. No names, no explanations, just a quote about betrayal and wolves in sheep's clothing. Within minutes, fans took it as confirmation that he knew exactly who was behind the leak. Screenshots spread, and the comments turned vicious. Some demanded receipts. Others warned him to prepare for more leaks. Jasmine watched it all unfold, reportedly telling friends that this was only the beginning. She believed the audio was just enough to make people listen, not enough to end the story. Jock, however, started to feel the pressure. Brand deals went quiet, calls stopped coming. Fans who once supported him questioned his role, asking why he sounded so comfortable plotting behind the scenes. That's when the first real regret allegedly set in. By the end of the week, tensions were boiling. Jasmine felt empowered, Kirk felt cornered, and Jock felt trapped between two sides that both expected loyalty. Fans are shocked at how fast everything escalated, and no one could tell who was actually winning. The audio had done what it was meant to do: expose cracks, spark chaos, and set the stage for a confrontation that was now unavoidable. And as whispers grew louder about another recording, even more damaging than the first, one thing became clear. Whatever plan was in motion had taken on a life of its own, and there was no turning back now. The pressure didn't ease, it multiplied. Every hour that passed without answers made the situation worse, and fans could feel it. Kirk reportedly stopped leaving his house, canceling appearances and ignoring calls that weren't from immediate family. Those close to him said he felt hunted, like every move he made would be twisted into proof of guilt. Emotions ran high inside his home, where arguments broke out over whether to fight back publicly or stay silent and let the storm pass. Some family members urged him to release his own recordings, claiming he had proof that Jasmine and Jock were the ones orchestrating everything. Others warned that responding would only give the story more oxygen. Jasmine, meanwhile, leaned into the chaos. She began posting cryptic captions, each one sounding like a warning. Fans dissected every word, convinced she was teasing another bombshell. Late one night, she allegedly sent a message to a close friend saying she was tired of being painted as the villain when she was just telling the truth. That message somehow leaked too, and fans are shocked at how fearless she appeared. Instead of backing down, she seemed energized by the attention, confident that public opinion would eventually swing in her favor. Jock was unraveling in real time. Insiders claimed he started distancing himself from both sides, avoiding Jasmine's calls and ignoring Kirk's messages. The guilt was eating at him, not because of what was said in the audio, but because of how it was said. He hadn't realized how calculated it sounded until the fans pointed it out. In private, he reportedly admitted that he underestimated how ruthless the internet could be. The same fans who once defended him were now calling him fake, accusing him of smiling in Kirk's face while plotting behind his back. Things escalated when a second audio snippet surfaced. Shorter, grainier, but far more damning. This one allegedly captured Jasmine saying, "Once they hear this, he won't be able to deny it." Those words sent shockwaves through the fanbase. Emotions ran high as people questioned how many recordings existed and who really had control over them. Kirk's name trended again, this time alongside words like setup and ambush. Some fans believed he was being targeted deliberately, while others insisted that where there's smoke, there's fire. Kirk finally snapped. According to sources, he called an emergency meeting with his legal team, demanding options. Lawsuits were discussed. Cease and desist letters were drafted. But the biggest debate was whether to confront Jasmine and Jock directly. Kirk allegedly wanted answers, not lawyers. He wanted to know why people he trusted would risk everything to tear him down. Against advice, he made the call. The conversation was explosive. Voices were raised almost immediately. Kirk accused Jasmine of manipulating Jock and using him as a pawn. Jasmine fired back, accusing Kirk of lying for years and expecting everyone to protect him. Jock barely spoke at first, listening as the two went at each other, until he finally broke. His voice cracked as he admitted that things had gone too far. That confession stunned both sides. Jasmine felt betrayed, accusing Jock of switching up to save himself. Kirk felt vindicated, believing Jock's hesitation proved the audio was staged. After the call ended, the fallout was immediate. Jasmine blocked Jock on everything. Fans noticed instantly, screenshots spreading within minutes. The family was left divided once again, with some blaming Jock for not standing firm and others praising him for finally showing remorse. Jock's silence afterward only made things worse. No posts, no statements, just absence. And in this drama, absence speaks louder than words. Rumors began swirling that Jasmine was sitting on one final recording, something that would end Kirk's denials for good. Insiders claimed she was waiting for the perfect moment, timing it for maximum impact. Fans argued endlessly about whether she was justified or just cruel. Emotions ran high as the line between truth and revenge blurred beyond recognition. Kirk's supporters begged him to expose her first. Jasmine's fans urged her to finish what she started. As days turned into weeks, the tension became unbearable. Brands quietly pulled back, invitations stopped coming, friendships fractured under the weight of suspicion. Everyone involved seemed to be losing something, yet no one was willing to blink. Jock reportedly told a friend that he felt like he was watching a train wreck he helped set in motion but could no longer stop. That confession, when leaked, shifted sympathy slightly in his direction, but not enough to undo the damage. Then came the twist no one expected. A mutual acquaintance, someone far removed from the spotlight, hinted online that the entire plan may have backfired because of one crucial mistake. According to this person, the audio Jasmine believed would destroy Kirk actually proved more about her intentions than his actions. Fans latched onto that theory instantly. Emotions ran high once again as people re-listened to every clip, this time focusing on Jasmine's words instead of Kirk's. By the end of the second week, the narrative was no longer clear. Was Jasmine exposing the truth, or exposing herself? Was Kirk a victim, or just better at playing the game? And where did that leave Jock, caught between regret and reputation? Fans are shocked at how quickly alliances shifted, how heroes became villains and villains became victims. And as whispers grew louder about a final reveal that could flip everything upside down once more, one thing was certain. This story was nowhere near finished, and the next move would change everything all over again. The calm before the next wave didn't last long. Just when fans thought the story had exhausted every possible angle, a new layer peeled back, darker and far more personal. Screenshots began circulating, allegedly showing private messages between Jasmine and a third party, someone close enough to Kirk to know his weaknesses but distant enough to stay invisible. The messages suggested timing, coordination, and intent. Words like pressure, leverage, and make him fold jumped out at fans, sending chills through comment sections. Emotions ran high as people realized this wasn't just messy drama anymore, it was starting to look like a calculated takedown. Kirk's inner circle reportedly exploded in panic. Trust evaporated overnight. Family members began questioning one another, wondering who had been talking and how deep the betrayal went. Arguments broke out behind closed doors, accusations flying in every direction. The family was left divided, with some insisting Kirk had to fight back aggressively, while others feared that more dirt would surface if he pushed too hard. Kirk himself was said to be exhausted, sleeping little, replaying years of relationships in his head, trying to pinpoint when things started to go wrong. Jasmine felt the shift immediately. The tone online began to change. Comments that once praised her bravery now questioned her motives. Fans are shocked at how quickly sympathy can turn, and Jasmine wasn't immune to it. Sources claimed she started to feel paranoid, suspecting everyone around her of leaking information. She allegedly confronted friends, demanding to know who was talking to blogs. Those confrontations reportedly ended in tears, with people distancing themselves, unwilling to get burned by association. Jock finally broke his silence, but not with a statement. Instead, he appeared unexpectedly on a live stream with a friend, looking drained and defensive. He didn't name names, but his message was clear. He claimed he never intended for things to go this far and hinted that he had been led to believe the audio would never be released publicly. Fans dissected every word, debating whether he was telling the truth or rewriting history. Emotions ran high as clips from the live spread, with some fans calling it damage control and others seeing genuine regret. Behind the scenes, tension between Jasmine and Jock reached a breaking point. According to insiders, they finally met face to face, no cameras, no audience. The conversation was raw and volatile. Jasmine accused Jock of abandoning her when things got ugly. Jock shot back that she underestimated the consequences and dragged him into something he couldn't escape. Voices were raised, tears were shed, and by the end of it, whatever alliance they once had was completely shattered. They reportedly left separately, knowing there was no coming back from what had been said. Just when it seemed like Jasmine was losing control of the narrative, she made a bold move. She teased a full story coming soon, claiming there were lies being told about her role. Fans are shocked at her confidence, especially given the mounting skepticism. Some believed she was bluffing, trying to regain power through anticipation. Others feared she really did have more to reveal, something that could still change everything. Kirk's legal strategy quietly shifted. Instead of preparing to strike back, his team began focusing on containment. Sources claimed they were advising him to let the drama burn itself out, arguing that public opinion was already turning. Kirk struggled with the idea of doing nothing. To him, silence felt like surrender. But every time he considered speaking, another rumor surfaced, another leak hinted it, reinforcing the risk of saying too much. The emotional toll became impossible to ignore. Friends described Kirk as withdrawn, questioning who he could trust. Jasmine was said to be oscillating between defiance and fear, publicly bold but privately anxious. Jock, caught in the middle, reportedly regretted ever getting involved, admitting to a confidant that the entire situation had spiraled beyond his control. Emotions ran high for all three, each dealing with a different kind of loss. Then came the unexpected betrayal. Someone believed to be firmly on Jasmine's side released a statement distancing themselves from her completely. They didn't deny the audio existed, but they questioned the intent behind it, suggesting Jasmine had been more focused on control than truth. That single move sent shockwaves through the fanbase. Fans are shocked at how quickly Jasmine's inner circle seemed to collapse, leaving her exposed. Social media turned ruthless. Memes mocked the situation. Think pieces dissected motives. Everyone had an opinion, and none of it was gentle. The family was left divided not just internally, but publicly, with relatives liking posts that subtly shaded one another. Every click, every like became a clue, another piece of the puzzle fans tried desperately to solve. As the story dragged on, a sense of fatigue set in, but not closure. People wanted an ending, a clear villain, a clear victim. Instead, they were left with a mess of half-truths and broken alliances. Jasmine hinted again that she was done talking, but few believed her. Jock disappeared once more, choosing silence over scrutiny. Kirk remained guarded, waiting for the storm to fully pass. And yet, despite everything, the feeling lingered that one final reveal was still looming. Something unresolved hung in the air, like a breath held too long. Fans are shocked not just by what has happened, but by how much remains unsaid. With reputations damaged, relationships destroyed, and trust in ruins, the question wasn't who won or lost anymore. It was who would make the next move, and whether anyone involved would come out of it whole. The next move came when no one was watching. While fans were busy arguing over old clips and screenshots, a quiet but devastating detail slipped out through a side channel. A blogger claimed to have spoken to someone who had been present when the original audio was recorded. According to that account, the conversation wasn't spontaneous at all. It was set up. The phone was on speaker. The room was silent except for the voices. And everyone involved allegedly knew exactly what they were doing. Fans are shocked at how calculated it sounded, especially after weeks of hearing that things had just gone too far. That revelation reignited everything. Emotions ran high as people questioned Jasmine's earlier claim that the truth only needed a push. If this was a setup from the start, then the push was intentional, precise, and ruthless. Supporters who once defended her began to hesitate. Critics grew louder, accusing her of playing victim while pulling strings behind the scenes. Jasmine responded indirectly, posting a long caption about being misunderstood and tired of carrying blame alone. She never denied the new claims, which only made the silence louder. Kirk's reaction was cold, almost detached. Sources said he felt vindicated but not relieved. Knowing the audio may have been staged didn't undo the damage already done. Relationships were still broken. Trust was still gone. He reportedly told a close family member that even if the truth came out completely, nothing would ever feel the same again. The family was left divided, not just over what happened, but over how to move forward after so much public humiliation. Jock, meanwhile, found himself under a microscope again. The blogger's account suggested he was more aware than he admitted. Fans replayed his past interviews, his live stream, his silences, now hearing them differently. Emotions ran high as people accused him of playing both sides until it no longer benefited him. Some felt sorry for him, calling him weak rather than evil. Others saw him as the quiet architect who helped light the match and then stepped back to watch it burn. The pressure pushed Jasmine to a breaking point. Insiders claimed she began spiraling, unsure who to trust, terrified that more private conversations would surface. She allegedly threatened legal action against blogs, accusing them of spreading lies, but those threats went nowhere. Instead, another leak surfaced, this time not audio, but a written plan. It was vague, undated, and unsigned, but the language was unmistakable. It spoke of timing releases, managing reactions, and forcing accountability through exposure. Fans are shocked at how closely it mirrored what had already happened. The internet exploded again. Emotions ran high as debates raged over whether the document was real or fabricated. Some insisted it was proof of manipulation. Others argued it could have been written by anyone. But the damage was done. The idea that there had been a plan to destroy Kirk was now mainstream, and Jasmine's name was permanently attached to it. Brands that had stayed quiet finally stepped away. Invitations disappeared completely. The cost of the chaos was becoming undeniable. Kirk considered speaking out one last time. According to sources, he drafted a statement that laid out everything from his perspective, naming names and detailing timelines. He read it to a small group of family members, hoping for clarity. Instead, the room erupted. Some begged him to release it and clear his name. Others warned that dragging things out would only reopen wounds. Emotions ran high as Kirk realized there was no version of this story that ended cleanly. Jasmine attempted to regain control by telling her side to a smaller platform, hoping to bypass the noise. The interview didn't go as planned. Instead of sympathy, she was met with skepticism. The interviewer pushed back, asking why so many things were recorded, why timing mattered so much, and why others involved now seemed to be distancing themselves. Jasmine grew defensive, her voice tightening as she insisted she was protecting herself. Fans are shocked at how different she sounded compared to earlier appearances. The confidence was gone, replaced by frustration and fear. Jock watched from a distance, reportedly telling friends he was done with all of it. He felt used by both sides, blamed by everyone, and exhausted by the constant scrutiny. He considered releasing his own full account but ultimately chose silence again, believing anything he said would only make things worse. That decision angered fans who wanted accountability, but it also highlighted how trapped he truly was. Every option led to backlash. As weeks passed, the story began to cool, not because it was resolved, but because people were worn out. The chaos had consumed everyone involved, leaving behind fractured relationships and damaged reputations. The family was left divided in ways that might never heal. Jasmine retreated from the spotlight, posting less, speaking rarely. Kirk focused on rebuilding quietly, avoiding interviews, prioritizing peace over vindication. Jock faded into the background, a cautionary figure in a drama that spiraled out of control. And yet, even as the noise died down, the tension never fully disappeared. Fans are shocked by how unresolved everything feels. No clear apology, no definitive proof that settled the debate. Just a trail of leaks, accusations, and broken alliances. People still argue about who was right and who was wrong, replaying clips like evidence from a case that never went to trial. In the end, the plan, whether real or imagined, succeeded in one way and failed in another. Kirk's image was shaken, but not destroyed. Jasmine's voice was heard, but at a heavy cost. Jock learned that standing in the middle can be just as dangerous as choosing a side. Emotions ran high, lessons were learned too late, and the damage couldn't be undone. And as fans continued to speculate about what really happened behind closed doors, one truth remains undeniable. Some stories don't end with closure. They end with silence, scars, and questions that will never fully be answered. The aftermath settled into something heavier than chaos. It was tension that lingered, thick and uncomfortable, like everyone involved was waiting for a door to slam that never quite did. Kirk tried to return to normal life, but normal no longer existed. Every public appearance felt staged even when it wasn't. Every smile looked forced. People whispered when he walked into rooms, and even those who supported him wondered what parts of the story they still didn't know. Emotions ran high because trust, once cracked, doesn't shatter cleanly. It splinters slowly, cutting everyone who touches it. Jasmine watched the world move on without her at the center, and that hurt more than the backlash ever did. Attention had once felt like power, like validation, like proof that her voice mattered. Now the silence felt like erasure. Sources claimed she checked social media obsessively, scrolling through comments that barely mentioned her anymore. Fans are shocked at how quickly the internet's obsession shifted, leaving her with consequences but no spotlight. Privately, she told friends she felt used by the same audience that once cheered her on. Jock attempted to rebuild quietly, focusing on family and work, but the stain followed him everywhere. People remembered. Fans brought it up in comments, in live chats, in meet and greets. No matter how far he tried to step away, the story clung to him. Emotions ran high as he struggled with the realization that staying neutral had cost him more than choosing a side ever would have. He reportedly admitted that fear drove his decisions, fear of losing everything, fear of confrontation, fear of being exposed himself. New rumors tried to surface, but none stuck the way the original ones did. The audience had grown wary. People demanded proof, context, full timelines. The drama machine slowed, not because the story lacked potential, but because trust in all narratives had eroded. Fans are shocked by how cynical they'd become, questioning every leak, every anonymous source. The very tactics that fueled the chaos had also poisoned the ground it grew from. Kirk's family remained fractured. Some relationships healed slightly, patched together by time and shared history. Others stayed distant, scarred by accusations that could never be fully taken back. Holidays felt awkward. Conversations avoided certain names entirely. The family was left divided not by loyalty alone, but by exhaustion. No one wanted to relive it, yet no one could forget it either. Jasmine's retreat from the spotlight didn't bring peace the way she expected. Without constant validation, doubts crept in. She replayed her decisions over and over, wondering if exposure had truly been the only path. Emotions ran high in private moments where anger turned inward. She justified herself by saying the truth mattered, but the question that haunted her was whether the timing and method had turned truth into something else entirely. Jock faced his own reckoning. Late-night conversations with close friends reportedly turned confessional. He spoke about regret, about loyalty, about how easy it is to convince yourself you're doing the right thing when fear is steering the wheel. Fans are shocked when snippets of these reflections leaked, softer and more vulnerable than anything he'd said publicly. For the first time, people saw not a mastermind or a coward, but someone overwhelmed by consequences he never fully understood. The internet, restless as ever, began comparing this drama to others before it, treating it like a case study in how fast narratives can spiral out of control. Think pieces emerged analyzing power, perception, and performative truth. Names were mentioned less, themes more. Kirk became an example. Jasmine became a cautionary tale. Jock became a symbol of indecision. Emotions ran high in comment sections where people argued not about guilt but about lessons. There was no final apology that satisfied everyone. No confession that tied up every loose end. Kirk never fully forgave, but he learned to let go. Jasmine never fully recanted, but she learned the cost of control. Jock never fully explained, but he learned the danger of silence. The family was left divided in ways that only time could soften, not fix. Months later, when someone asked if there would ever be another reveal, another leak, another chapter, the answer felt obvious. The damage had already peaked. Anything else would only reopen wounds without offering resolution. Fans are shocked at how unfinished it all feels, yet strangely accepting. Not every story gets an ending that makes sense. Some just stop hurting as loudly. And so the plan, whether imagined or real, faded into memory as something that changed lives without delivering justice. Emotions ran high, reputations shifted, alliances broke, and the audience learned that sometimes the loudest truth isn't the most honest one. What remained were people trying to move forward under the weight of choices they couldn't undo, in a world that would always remember, even when it pretended not to. Time didn't heal everything, it just dulled the noise. Months passed, but the tension stayed buried under the surface, waiting. Kirk tried to rebuild his image slowly, choosing controlled appearances and carefully worded interviews. Every time he spoke, he emphasized peace, growth, and moving forward, but fans could hear what he wasn't saying. Emotions ran high because avoidance felt like strategy, and strategy felt like guilt to those already convinced. Still, others praised him for restraint, arguing that silence was the only way to starve the drama. Jasmine's name, though quieter, never fully disappeared. It floated in comment sections, resurfaced in reaction videos, and popped up whenever conversations turned to betrayal and power plays. Fans are shocked at how polarizing she remained even without speaking. Some insisted she was brave for exposing what others were too scared to touch. Others labeled her manipulative, accusing her of weaponizing truth for attention. Jasmine herself stayed mostly offline, but when she did post, it was cryptic, reflective, almost mournful. Quotes about strength, survival, and being misunderstood filled her feed, sparking fresh debates every time. Jock existed in an uncomfortable in-between. He wasn't fully cancelled, but he wasn't embraced either. Crowds were polite, never warm. Support came quietly, criticism loudly. Emotions ran high for him in private, where friends claimed he struggled with anxiety and second-guessed every move. He had learned the hard way that trying to keep everyone happy often leaves you with no one truly on your side. Still, he pushed forward, telling himself consistency would eventually rebuild trust. Then, just when it seemed the story was finally settling into the past, a familiar pattern emerged. A new blogger hinted at revisiting the saga with new perspective. Fans froze. Emotions ran high as people braced for impact, unsure if they wanted more truth or simply feared reopening scars. Speculation exploded overnight. Was there really something new, or was this another attempt to revive a dying narrative? The follow-up never fully landed. Instead of a bombshell, it was a rehash. Old clips, familiar accusations, recycled theories. Fans are shocked at how little power it held compared to before. The audience had changed. People were tired. Outrage no longer came easily. That shift, more than anything, marked the true end of the drama's peak. The machine that fed on chaos had finally slowed. Kirk reportedly felt a strange sense of closure watching the weak reaction. Not vindication, but relief. The worst had already happened, and nothing new could truly damage him now. Jasmine, on the other hand, felt the sting of irrelevance more sharply than criticism. Being talked about had once felt like justice. Now, being ignored felt like punishment. Emotions ran high as she wrestled with that realization, questioning whether the fight had been worth the aftermath. The family was left divided in quieter ways. No public arguments, no explosive statements, just distance. Some bridges were never rebuilt. Certain names weren't mentioned at gatherings. Everyone learned what topics to avoid. Peace came not from resolution, but from boundaries. Fans watching from the outside sensed it too. The story had no clean ending because real life rarely does. Jock eventually addressed the situation indirectly during a conversation about growth and mistakes. He spoke about choosing silence when fear takes over and how that choice can haunt you. Fans are shocked at how honest it sounded, even without specifics. Some forgave him in that moment. Others didn't, but it marked the first time he seemed to accept his role without deflection. Jasmine never gave a final statement. No apology tour, no dramatic confession, just distance. Some fans respected that, others felt robbed of closure. Emotions ran high whenever someone asked if she would ever speak again. The unanswered question became part of her legacy, for better or worse. Kirk focused on legacy too, but in a different way. Rebuilding trust with family mattered more than public opinion now. He avoided old patterns, kept his circle small, and learned that privacy was more valuable than perception. Fans are shocked at how much quieter his life became, and some interpreted that as growth rather than defeat. In the end, the plan, the leak, the fallout, all blurred into a single lesson. Control is an illusion. Once a story leaves your hands, it belongs to everyone. Emotions ran high because everyone involved learned that truth without care can be just as destructive as lies. And while the internet moved on, the people at the center carried the weight forward, changed in ways no viral moment could ever fully capture. The drama didn't end with a bang. It faded, and sometimes that's the hardest ending of all. As the months stretched on, the emotional residue refused to disappear. Kirk could feel it in subtle ways, like how conversations would pause when he entered a room, or how laughter felt a second too late. People were polite, careful, almost rehearsed. Emotions ran high inside him, not because of anger anymore, but because of disappointment. He had expected enemies, but what hurt more was realizing how many people he once trusted had quietly stepped back, choosing comfort over clarity. Jasmine's isolation deepened. The silence that once felt strategic now felt suffocating. She told herself she was protecting her peace, but peace didn't come. Instead, memories replayed constantly. Every decision, every message, every moment she chose escalation over restraint. Emotions ran high late at night when confidence gave way to doubt. She wondered if exposing the situation had been about justice, or if it had slowly turned into something else without her noticing. Fans continued to argue, but the tone had changed. Outrage had softened into analysis. People spoke less about who was right and more about how things reached that point. Fans are shocked at how differently they now viewed the same clips that once felt explosive. What had sounded bold before now sounded rehearsed. What had felt damning now felt incomplete. Perspective had shifted, and with it, sympathy moved in unpredictable directions. Jock tried to keep his head down, but the weight of unfinished business lingered. He avoided interviews, avoided questions, avoided even thinking about the situation when he could. Yet the truth had a way of resurfacing when he least expected it. Emotions ran high when someone would casually mention loyalty or trust, words that now carried heavier meanings. He knew that no explanation would ever fully clean his hands, but he also knew silence had its own price. A year passed, then another. The drama no longer dominated timelines, but it remained part of each person's story. Kirk became more guarded, more deliberate. Jasmine became more withdrawn, more introspective. Jock became quieter, more cautious. The family was left divided not by open conflict anymore, but by history. Some wounds had scabbed over, others remained tender beneath the surface. Occasionally, a fan would ask the question everyone still thought about. Was there more? Was something still hidden? Emotions ran high whenever that question resurfaced, because the answer was always unclear. Maybe there was more truth. Maybe there wasn't, but the cost of uncovering it had already been proven too high. Jasmine's supporters never fully disappeared. A core group remained, insisting she was misunderstood, that she sacrificed herself to expose something bigger. Critics remained just as firm, convinced she played a dangerous game and lost control of it. Fans are shocked at how firmly opinions stayed divided even after time passed. Some stories don't soften with age, they harden. Kirk avoided revisiting the past publicly, but privately, he worked through it piece by piece. Conversations with family became more honest, even when they were uncomfortable. Emotions ran high during those moments, but they were necessary. Rebuilding didn't mean pretending nothing happened. It meant acknowledging the damage without letting it define every future interaction. Jock eventually found a rhythm again, though it was different from before. Fewer risks, fewer alliances. He had learned that proximity to drama can be just as damaging as drama itself. Emotions ran high when he realized how much of his stress had come from trying to manage other people's battles instead of his own boundaries. There was never a grand reconciliation. No sit-down that fixed everything. No dramatic apology that satisfied all sides. The family was left divided in quieter, more permanent ways. Not hostile, just changed. That, in many ways, was the most realistic outcome. Fans who once demanded answers began to accept ambiguity. Some even admitted they preferred it. The lack of closure forced reflection. Emotions ran high as people recognized their own role in fueling the chaos, sharing clips, choosing sides, amplifying pain for entertainment. The story became a mirror as much as a spectacle. Jasmine, far from the spotlight, began redefining herself outside the narrative. Not publicly, not loudly, but internally. She learned that being heard doesn't always mean being understood. Emotions ran high as she let go of the need to control how others saw her. It was a slow process, uneven and painful, but necessary. Kirk focused on stability. Not image, not reputation, but consistency. Showing up, being present, repairing what could be repaired. Emotions ran high when he accepted that some losses were permanent, not because of guilt, but because trust has limits. Jock found peace in accountability without confession. He didn't know the world every detail, but he owed himself honesty. Emotions ran high when he stopped justifying the past and started learning from it. And so the story settled into something less dramatic but more truthful. No heroes, no villains, just people who made choices under pressure and lived with the consequences. Fans are shocked when they realize that's often how real life ends, not with answers but with acceptance. The plan, the leak, the chaos, all became chapters instead of definitions. The noise faded, but the lessons stayed. Emotions ran high once, then slowly quieted. What remained wasn't victory or defeat, but awareness. And sometimes, that's the closest thing to an ending there is. And now it's your turn. After everything you've just heard, the leaks, the alleged plan, the betrayals, the silence, and the fallout, one question still hangs in the air. Do you think this was all calculated from the beginning, or did things spiral out of control faster than anyone expected? Fans are shocked that so many questions remain unanswered, and emotions still run high every time this story is brought up. If you were in Kirk's position, would you have spoken out sooner, or stayed silent and let the noise burn itself out? If you were Jasmine, would you have handled the truth differently, or do you believe exposure was the only option left? And what about Jock, stuck in the middle, trying to balance loyalty, fear, and survival? Was silence his biggest mistake, or his only way out? The family was left divided, reputations were shaken, and trust was tested in ways that can't be undone. But the biggest mystery is still what really happened behind closed doors, far away from the clips, the screenshots, and the speculation. That's where your opinion matters most. So make sure you like this video if you want more deep dives into shocking celebrity drama just like this. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story that has everyone talking. And most importantly, drop a comment below and tell us what you think. Whose side are you on, or do you think everyone involved shares the blame? Your voice keeps these conversations alive, and we want to hear every take. Stay tuned, because if this story has taught us anything, it's that in the world of celebrity drama, silence never lasts forever.